The airport's still open, but the planes are sitting idle. The beachside boardwalk is empty. Hotel prices are down, but the rooms stay dark. Something is cracking beneath the surface, and it's not just the economy, it's the lifeblood of entire states. Tourism, once a golden engine of growth, is seizing up. One by one, iconic destinations are going silent, not from disaster, but from neglect, policy, and something far more unsettling. People just stop coming. Which states are already unraveling? Which ones could be next? Stay close, because these 10 places are not just losing tourists, they're losing time. Number 10. Nevada. Casinos are still lit up, but the crowds are thinner than they've been in years. Hotel suites sit untouched. Buffets, once overflowing, now run half-empty or are shuttered completely. Something is shifting in Nevada, and it's not just bad luck at the tables. Las Vegas, the heart of the state's economy, just saw one of its sharpest tourism drops in over a decade. Strip visitation is down more than 6%, gaming revenue is falling. And here's where it gets alarming. Nevada is one of the most tourism-dependent states in the entire country. When tourists stop flying in, everything slows down, restaurant jobs vanish, entertainment dries up, even real estate cools as investors pull back. But the real danger? This is not a blip. This could be the beginning of a permanent reset. What happens to a state when its main attraction loses its shine? And what happens to everyone who built their future around it? Number 9. California. Golden sunsets, iconic highways, and blockbuster dreams. But behind the postcard, a storm is brewing. California, one of the world's most visited destinations, is starting to slip, and not quietly. International travel is drying up, especially from Canada, its second largest market. Entire cities that once thrived on tourism, like San Francisco, Anaheim, and parts of Los Angeles, are reporting fewer visitors, declining hotel revenue, and rising vacancy signs. The numbers are real. Even with over $157 billion in tourism spending last year, 2025 is showing the first signs of a true pullback. And here's the twist. This slowdown is hitting just as the state's cost of living reaches all-time highs. Theme parks, beach towns, and wine country can only hold on for so long without global interest. Is the California dream starting to fade? Before we go further, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep digging deeper. And trust us, what's coming next will shock you. Number 8. Florida. Palm trees still sway. Theme parks still sparkle. But behind the sunshine, something's gone quiet. Florida, a titan of American tourism, is suddenly on unstable ground. The state depends heavily on international visitors, especially from Canada. But in 2025, those travelers just stop coming. Here's the reality. Flight bookings from Canada to Florida plunged more than 70% for the spring and summer. That's not a dip, that's a freefall. And with that drop, Florida is now staring at a $2.1 billion shortfall in spending and 14,000 tourism-related jobs on the line. Take Miami. Take Orlando. Even beach towns like Clearwater and Naples, they're all feeling it. Resorts offer steep discounts just to fill rooms. Restaurants that once had lines out the door now close early. But this is not just about vacations, this is about ripple effects. When tourism shrinks, Florida's economy takes a hit in housing, hospitality, transportation, even retail. And here's where it gets even more serious. Florida has no backup plan. This state is built on sunshine, fantasy, and tourism dollars. When one of those fails, everything else starts to crack. Even domestic travel can't fill the hole left by international spending. Overseas visitors typically stay longer and spend more. And right now, that cash flow is drying up. So what triggered this sudden downturn? Some point to rising costs. Others blame global tensions, stricter border policies, and travel fatigue. Whatever the cause, the numbers don't lie. And neither do the empty hotel lobbies. What happens if this trend continues into next year? What happens if another storm, economic or literal, hits the state while it's already down? Florida may still look like paradise from the outside. But on the inside, it's one canceled flight away from crisis. Number 7. New York. The skyline still stuns. The lights still shine. But look closer and you'll see something else: quiet streets where tourists used to swarm. New York City, once the beating heart of international tourism in the United States, is starting to slip. In 2025, city officials had to revise their forecast downward. They expected 67 million visitors. Instead, they now predict 64 million. That's 3 million fewer people walking into hotels, restaurants, museums, and Broadway theaters. Here's what makes this different. Of that drop, 2 million are international visitors. And international tourists aren't casual spenders, they're the economic engine. They stay longer, spend more, and right now, they're disappearing. For a city like New York, where half of all tourism dollars come from outside the country, that's a direct hit to the gut. So what's causing the pullback? Rising costs. Global inflation. A stronger US dollar. And growing concerns over safety and cleanliness. To many would-be visitors, New York is not feeling as magical as it used to. And it's not just perception. Local businesses are already feeling the impact. You'd be surprised how many restaurants in Manhattan rely on foot traffic from global travelers, or how many shops in Soho depend on overseas spending. When those dollars vanish, jobs do too. Tour guides. Hotel staff. Retail workers. Thousands now face reduced hours or layoffs. And it goes deeper. Before we dive into the next city, don't forget to subscribe. That's how we keep bringing you stories that matter, stories others aren't telling. And trust us, what comes next is even more unexpected. Number 6. Hawaii. It looks like paradise from the air. Turquoise water. Lush mountains. Golden beaches. But the closer you get, the more the cracks begin to show. Hawaii, long seen as the crown jewel of U.S. tourism, is now facing a storm it can't surf its way out of. In 2025, visitor numbers have dropped sharply, especially from international markets like Japan and Canada, which historically made up a huge share of the state's spending base. But here's the twist: it's not just fewer tourists. It's fewer dollars. Average visitor spending has declined in nearly every major Hawaiian island this year. Even popular destinations like Oahu and Maui are seeing hotel occupancy rates sink to lows not seen since the pandemic era. And the cause? A dangerous mix: rising flight prices, stricter vacation rental laws, wildfires in Maui that devastated parts of the island and scared off travelers, and a growing local resistance to over-tourism which has led to tighter regulations and fewer accommodations. The result? Hawaii's tourism industry is now fighting a war on two fronts: falling demand and shrinking capacity. Businesses that depend on visitors are closing shop or cutting staff. Tour guides, surf instructors, restaurant workers, all are seeing fewer hours and slimmer paychecks. In remote areas, some families are already leaving the islands altogether. But the deeper issue: Hawaii doesn't have much of a fallback. Tourism makes up over 20% of the state's entire economy. There's no plan B, no backup engine to replace the billions lost when flights get cancelled or visitors stay away. And it's not just about money, the cultural and environmental toll is growing. Locals are asking hard questions. How much more strain can these islands take? And if tourism shrinks too far, what happens to the hundreds of communities that rely on it to survive? The answer may already be unfolding, one quiet beach at a time. Number 5. Arizona. From a distance, it still looks like a desert success story: sunny skies, booming cities, and endless trails drawing visitors year-round. But take a closer look and something starts to feel off. Arizona's tourism industry, once a rising star, is beginning to flicker. In 2025, visitor spending dropped by nearly 7%, and the hit has been felt across the board, from Sedona's high-end resorts to Grand Canyon tour operators. And here's the eye-opener: international tourism is down over 10%, with Canadian travel, one of Arizona's biggest sources, taking a nosedive. The reasons are stacking up. Record heat waves have shattered summer travel, deterring even the most loyal visitors. Water restrictions and wildfire risks are growing. And airfare to the southwest? Higher than ever. But there's a deeper issue here. Arizona has been rapidly expanding, betting heavily on hospitality and real estate. When tourism slows, that house of cards wobbles. Construction pauses. Short-term rentals sit vacant. Restaurants, spas, and golf resorts scale back or close entirely. Even cities like Scottsdale and Phoenix are now seeing hotel bookings flatten and seasonal employment shrink. In places like Flagstaff and Page, towns that rely almost entirely on national park traffic, the slowdown feels more like a stop. And it's not just economic. Arizona's natural wonders are facing overuse, pushing the state to crack down on access. That means fewer permits, tighter regulations, and even more friction for visitors. So what happens when the landscapes that built your brand become too fragile to promote? Or when the climate becomes part of the threat instead of the draw? Arizona's tourism downturn isn't a freefall yet. But the signs are everywhere. Dry riverbeds. Closed trailheads. Empty patio tables. Before we head to the next state, do not forget to subscribe. It helps us keep digging into the stories most people are not talking about. And trust us, what comes next could change everything you thought you knew about American travel. Number 4. Louisiana. The music still echoes down the streets, and the food still pulls in crowds. But behind the jazz and jambalaya, something is falling apart. Louisiana, renowned as one of America's most iconic cultural destinations, is now facing real trouble. In 2025, tourism isn't just slowing down, it's hitting a wall. New Orleans, the state's pride and centerpiece, has seen a more than 20% drop in international visitors. And with that decline, the dollars that sustain the local economy are vanishing fast. Hotels are reporting steep declines in occupancy. Major events like Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest are attracting fewer out-of-state attendees. The French Quarter, once shoulder to shoulder with tourists, now shows empty storefronts and shorter lines. And no, it's not because the city solved its congestion problem, it's because fewer people are coming in the first place. What makes this all the more serious is the fact that in Louisiana, tourism isn't just entertainment, it's economic survival. The industry supports over 200,000 jobs statewide. When those jobs vanish, the damage radiates far beyond Bourbon Street. And this slowdown isn't random. It's driven by a mix of rising crime in tourist hotspots, spiking inflation, brutal summer heat, and a growing number of hurricanes. Together, they've created a perfect storm that's steering travelers elsewhere. Some tourists say the atmosphere feels less welcoming now. Others simply say the high costs are no longer worth it. Meanwhile, as international travel to the U.S. remains uneven in the post-pandemic era, Louisiana is falling behind states that feel safer, cleaner, or more reliable. Number 3. Missouri. From riverboats to slow-cooked barbecue, Missouri built its identity on unforgettable experiences. But today, cracks are forming in the very pillars that once brought people here. Missouri's tourism engine, especially in places like St. Louis, Branson, and Kansas City, is grinding down. And the data from 2025 paints a worrisome picture. In key regions, visitor spending has taken a serious hit. Hotel bookings are down by as much as 12% in some areas compared to last year. Branson, once a magnet for music lovers and family vacations, has seen its audience shrink. There are fewer group tours, fewer senior travelers, and far fewer tourism dollars flowing into the Ozarks. What was once steady and dependable now feels vulnerable. Aging entertainers and shuttered theaters are no longer rare, they're becoming the norm. St. Louis is facing even starker challenges. A wave of crime headlines has turned off potential visitors. Convention business has fallen. Major events are packing up and moving to cities that promise more safety and better returns. Even hotels downtown are slashing prices just to attract guests. And it's not all about image. Missouri is feeling real pressure from multiple angles. Kansas City had high hopes with its airport expansion, betting on a tourism and business travel boost. But the return has been underwhelming. Meanwhile, inflation is hitting hard, especially for families. Museums, zoos, and local attractions are all experiencing lighter foot traffic. Before we dive into the next state on this list, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us dig deeper and bring you the real stories behind the headlines. And trust us, what's next might surprise you even more. Number 2, Illinois. Skyscrapers still reach into the sky, and the river still winds through downtown Chicago. But behind the city's polished skyline and beyond, a growing silence is spreading across Illinois. In 2025, the state is facing a tourism crisis that few are acknowledging. Chicago, once a beacon for international travelers, has seen foreign tourism drop by over 14% this year. Business travel, conventions, and overall tourism spending are all sliding downward. This isn't just a soft patch, it's a steep, concerning decline. Why is this happening? One word: perception. Crime continues to shape the narrative, even though some statistics are improving. International tourists, in particular, are opting for cities with safer reputations. And it's not just global travelers backing out, domestic families are changing plans too. But this isn't just Chicago's problem. Cities like Springfield, Peoria, and Rockford haven't seen tourism recover since the pandemic. Across the state, attractions like historical landmarks, music festivals, and river cruises are all struggling to regain momentum. Even the legendary Route 66 corridor, once a nostalgic goldmine, is seeing long stretches that feel like ghost towns. Roadside stops are shuttered. Others are barely clinging on. Here's another twist. Illinois is among the most heavily taxed states in the U.S. That means higher hotel rates, elevated food costs, and steeper expenses overall for travelers. For tourists on a budget, Illinois is becoming harder to justify, especially when neighboring states offer more value for less money. And the jobs? They're drying up too. Over the last year, Illinois has lost thousands of hospitality and tourism-related positions. This doesn't just impact the big hotels, it hits mom and pop diners, family-run attractions, and even gas stations along major routes. Number 1. Texas. Texas, the Lone Star State, famous for doing everything on a grand scale, is suddenly shrinking in one area that matters a lot: tourism. You might imagine the crowds at rodeos, the electric energy of music festivals, and the long lines at iconic barbecue joints. But if you look a little closer, things are starting to crack. In 2025, some of Texas's biggest tourism hotspots are under pressure. Austin, long hailed as the heart of cultural tourism, is now losing visitors at an alarming rate. Hotel occupancy downtown is down more than 11% just this spring. Local businesses that rely on live music say foot traffic is vanishing week by week. San Antonio, home to the famous River Walk, is seeing fewer tourists, fewer conventions, and a growing list of unfilled bookings. The searing summer heat, now breaking records year after year, is pushing away travelers who once came in droves during peak season. And then there's Houston, once a magnet for international business travel. That's seeing airline traffic decline. Fewer trade shows. More empty hotel lobbies. After enduring several hurricanes and devastating power grid failures, many tourists are now asking, is Texas still worth the risk? These states aren't just struggling, they're on the brink. Help us keep exposing the truth. Subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to understand what's really happening to travel across America in 2025.